We have a proud history in Mount Vernon and at this church about being part of the Underground Railroad movement when Americans helped enslaved Americans escape. We were a part of a secret system of escape that ran through the streets and the alleys of this town. We consider the Underground Railroad heroic, but at the time it was frowned on and illegal, making it quite risky. Our founders actually formed this as a resistance church, a part of that anti-slavery movement. Our window of Black David back there facing Main Street since 1895 is dedicated to those founders and their anti-slavery friends. For the first 3 decades of our church's existence, the unfairness and inequalities of slavery outweighed the unpopularness and unlawfulness of working to free fellow Americans from awful, sinful, cruel enslavement based on skin color. And we know today that skin color ought not to have anything to do with equality. That's a scientific fact and a cultural mantra for most now, but in the slave culture of our nation's first 9 decades, skin color was the difference. The difference between being considered human and chattel, being free and slave, being equal and unequal, being treated fair or unfair under the law. In the progressive churches of the slave era, including this one and others in town, those differences based on the skin color of Americans were rightly considered unholy, inhumane, and worthy to stand against, so that the abhorrent oppression of Americans with dark skin color would end. And the abolition movement, the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, and the 13th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution thankfully ended slavery. Those amendments were meant to finally vest in Americans with black skin the God-given rights Americans with white skin enjoyed. But within a few dozen years, southern and border states began Jim Crow laws and cultural rules that intentionally and systemically denied those God-given rights to Americans who were the least bit black. This created a very unfair and unequal post-slavery, anti-black America in many states and many towns. Any American who was any part black could not share any use with any whites in many public accommodations, from hospitals to theaters to restaurants to bathrooms to beaches to pools to parks to bus seats to train cars to schools, and for goodness sake, to drinking fountains. If an American was known to have a drop of black blood, they were barred from enjoying things most of us take for granted, the right to use all public facilities. There were denials of other rights too, like access to justice and voting. Some states even banned black and white Americans, believe it or not, from social interaction like boating, sports, and playing board games together on their porches. Even churches and cemeteries were separated. Jim Crow made unfairness and inequality lawful and culturally acceptable. And a violation of the laws and cultural rules didn't just result in a ticket. Real, terrible violence ensued. Whites physically beat black Americans and could get away with it because the criminal justice system was all white. Violence was instrumental for Jim Crow. It was a method of social control. The most extreme forms of Jim Crow violence were lynchings. In America, a racial caste system continued to exist after the Civil War, supported and enforced by the legal system, as well as by infamous vigilante groups like the Ku Klux Klan. And this weekend, we honor Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a heroic pastor and peacemaker and leader of a remarkable non-violent civil rights movement that stood up to Jim Crow and the systems and vigilantes that enforced it. And Dr. King knew that he was not the only leader nor the only hero in that movement. He wrote in his famous letter from a Birmingham jail that one day the South will recognize its real heroes. They will be the James Merediths with the noble sense of purpose that enables them to face jeering and hostile mobs, and with the agonizing loneliness that characterizes the life of the pioneer. They will be old, oppressed, battered Negro women, symbolized in a 72-year-old woman in Montgomery, Alabama, who rose up with a sense of dignity and with her people decided not to ride segregated buses, and who responded with ungrammatical profundity to one who inquired about her weariness. My feet is tired, but my soul is at rest. They will be the young high school and college students, the young ministers of the gospel and a host of their elders, courageously and non-violently sitting in at lunch counters and willingly going to jail for conscience sake. One day the South will know that when these disinherited children of God sat down at lunch counters, they were in reality standing up for what is best in the American dream and for the most sacred values in our Judeo-Christian heritage, thereby bringing our nation back to those great wells of democracy which were dug deep by the founding fathers in their formulation of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Reverend Dr. King. We tend to think of Jim Crow as only existing in the South, but it existed elsewhere. We may not want to hear it. Parts of it existed here in Knox County. Dr. King and other national and civil rights heroes helped to bring Jim Crow to an end, but there were heroes locally too. I want to lift up one such hero this morning, Dr. Ellamae Simmons. Since I arrived here, I've heard stories of Black Americans in most of our lifetimes in this town during Jim Crow having been refused entry to the community pool and having to sit in segregated seating at the movie theater here. I have heard about the Ku Klux Klan having influence in this county. I've heard those stories mostly from longtime white citizens, and one would hope that it was not widespread, but apparently that was not the case. In her amazing book, which I highly recommend, Overcome, My Life in Pursuit of a Dream, Dr. Ellamae Simmons describes Jim Crow's ugly existence in Mount Vernon and Ohio for decades of her life. Dr. Simmons grew up on East Pleasant Street. She was first stung by the fact that color of her skin adversely affected her when another 11-year-old said, "Ellamae, I can't be your friend anymore. My mother says I'm not supposed to play with colored people." This was not racism limited to one or two families. Dr. Simmons recounts that the public places her friends hung out at were segregated places that she could not frequent, like snack shops, restaurants, pools, and parks. She recounts her father giving white and black children a hayride to an ice cream parlor downtown that gave the white kids cones but refused to provide cones to any of the black children. She tells how her father was not allowed access to white-collar jobs or restaurants that he taxed his white fares to. And there were worse things, terrifying things. Dr. Simmons reports that the entire family had to hide inside their house at 110 East Pleasant Street when 100 Ku Klux Klan marched down the street of town. She reports the family watching the glow of a burning cross at the fairgrounds. She reports instances of Klan neighbors right next door having robed Klan coming and going from their house. The Klan even held a cross burning at a park directly across the street from her home. The acrid smell of gasoline that soaked the cross was burning, filling the air. And to this day, the smell of gasoline reminds Dr. Simmons of those frightening childhood events in Mount Vernon, maybe 7 blocks from here. And despite having stellar grades at Mount Vernon schools, Ellamae Simmons was refused admission to Ohio State's nursing program, a program her family and many other Americans with black skin supported with their taxes. OSU's terse one-line rejection letter read, "We have no facilities for training colored girls in our school of nursing." But Ellamae didn't give up. She attended a segregated nursing school in the South and served in World War II as an Army lieutenant and was asked by our nation to be one of 8 blacks who historically fully integrated for the first time an Army unit. And after the war with the GI Bill, she finally got into Ohio State for a bachelor's and master's program, but had to push and push and push to become the first Black American female to finally integrate OSU's campus housing. And while later denied acceptance to OSU's medical school, she didn't give up, earning an MD at Howard. She then became the first Black female allergist in the nation and the first to integrate a huge medical system in California. Dr. Ellamae Simmons is a local hero, a civil rights leader who climbed over Jim Crow to help transform the world, not just for herself, but for all of us. Dr. Simmons' outstanding achievements left over the high hurdles Black Americans face. While heroically blazing trails required tenacity and courage and gifts for sure, it also required other Americans willing to buck the culture of oppression and discrimination. Dr. Simmons' story is remarkable. And she's not alone in efforts that took place all across America to take down the oppression and violence of Jim Crow's unfair and unequal treatment of Americans who were born with skin of a darker hue. And it makes little sense to most Americans today that anyone can be treated unfairly because of skin color. But it took Reverend Dr. King and thousands of other heroes like Dr. Ellamae Simmons to courageously push and move our culture to take down Jim Crow. It took Americans with black skin generations to push and pull and drive the engine of justice finally over first slavery, and then after another 100 years to run over Jim Crow. And you know what? Just like in the Underground Railroad movement, Americans with white skin had to step up and join in working to remove injustice and unfairness and inequality based on skin color. Americans of all colors made a difference between some Americans being considered human and chattel, being free and slave, being equal and unequal, being treated fair or unfair under the law. In the strange way of the unique American racial caste system of slavery and Jim Crow, white Americans were vested with the God-given rights that all deserve, but black Americans were not. And it required not just the oppressed Americans, but Americans of all skin color to work to change things, blacks and whites. And Dr. King noted that he had hoped the whole white moderate would see this need, but he was disappointed when even by 1963, white clergy were still not on board, cautioning the need to wait and not rock the boat. Dr. King pointed out the reason for this disappointment. Perhaps I was too optimistic. Perhaps I expected too much. I suppose I should have realized that few members of the oppressor race can understand the deep groans and passionate yearnings of the oppressed race. And still fewer have the vision to see the injustice must be rooted out by strong persistence and determined action. But Dr. King also knew and was grateful for those Americans with white skin who joined in. I am thankful, however, that some of our white brothers in the South have grasped the meaning of the social revolution and committed themselves to it. They are still too few in quantity, but they are big in quality. Dr. King went on to write that unlike so many of their modern brothers and sisters, they, acting whites, have recognized this urgency of the moment and sensed the need for powerful action as antidotes to combat the disease of segregation. After writing about his major disappointment in most white churches not acting, Dr. King pointed out the notable exceptions and how they have acted in the faith that right defeated is stronger than evil triumphed. Their witness has been the spiritual salt that has preserved the true meaning of the gospel in these troubled times. They have carved a tunnel of hope through the dark mountain of disappointment. As Dr. King pointed out, acts by Americans with white skin mattered. For all of Dr. Simmons' monumental efforts and courage and stamina and brains and talent, white teachers in this town had to care to help her succeed. White professors and white medical folks and white army officers and white OSU administrators and white politicians had to work for change. Just like Dr. King and the movement he led, black Americans wanting and deserving and striving for God-given rights of every American was not enough. Not enough to end slavery, not enough to end Jim Crow, and not enough to end systemic racism. Americans with all manner of skin color joined in to put down slavery and Jim Crow, and it mattered. In places like this church, clergy and laity alike had to join the community of civil rights advocates, not just in their thoughts and not just in their work in church on Sunday, but in their actions out in the world 7 days a week. And Dr. King summarized the goal of such church work like this: let us all hope that the dark clouds of racial prejudice will soon pass away and the deep fog of misunderstanding will be lifted from our fear-drenched community, and in some not too distant tomorrow, the radiant stars of love and brotherhood will shine over our great nation with all their scintillating beauty. Today we might better call brotherhood togetherness. We've come a long, long way. Most Americans today abhor racism and they want equality for all. What an amazing difference. But we're not yet all the way through the dark clouds of racial prejudice, nor has the deep fog of misunderstanding fully dissipated. We still have fear, if not drenching, still lingering in America. But thanks to Dr. King, Dr. Simmons, and Americans who challenge racism, the hope is more and more real and ever closer, that the radiant stars of love and togetherness will shine over our great nation with all their scintillating beauty. Reverend Dr. King often quoted the last part of the text we heard in our lesson today. It calls us as a people of God to first and foremost, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. And may we as church, as Christians, continue to work to break the dam of racism until justice fully rolls down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.